One of the things I always say to everybody is guidelines, not gospel. Guidelines, not gospel. How do these guidelines pertain and fit into my life and my body? And so by that token, what if we started to measure our choices based on listening to our bodies or communicating with our bodies, rather than based on some set of rules and adhering to those rules?
That's a great way to start doing a different kind of measurement, like listening to your body versus listening to what's on that piece of paper.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your health coach and host, Jenn Trepic, always here with you every week for wellness without the weirdness. I, by the way, have adopted that from Frank of Earworthy, so thank you, Frank. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation because this is one that I feel wholly delivers on the mission of this podcast. So if we talk about the mission here of clearing up confusion in wellness, and we'll dig more into it today, but I see a few of these things making a real resurgence on social media and especially given weight loss medications. And I felt like we really needed to have this conversation. Joining me today is a returning friend of the pod, a longtime listener and member, Deanna. Dee, welcome back.
Thanks, Jen. It's fun to be back.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I want to jump right into what our members are getting this week so we can get to the meat of this topic. By the way, let me say it very clearly, right? Because I think I'm calling this, there's a problem with your yardstick.
That's a good one.
Right? What I really mean by that, right? Yardsticks are used to measure. And I really believe that we have been taught to use inappropriate metrics, right? Inappropriate yardsticks or barometers, as I often call them, for measuring all the things that we measure when it comes to, our health and specifically our weight and the activity around managing our health and our weight. So that's what we're going to talk about. Again, let's do our members gift and perks and all those things super quick. Members, your recipe this week is actually a recommendation from one of you. So our member Melissa sent it to me after her husband made it for her birthday. So it's for healthier lobster bisque. But hear me, the base of the soup is pureed vegetables. So that's how it gets that creamy texture. And then you could totally make this with other kinds of fish or less expensive parts of the lobster than the lobster tail if you wanted to. Melissa said her husband added a can of crab knuckles to add a little more seafood to it. So you could almost use this base of the soup and adjust it to be anything you want. So I can't wait for you all to try it. And then, since it is officially March, the last month of the quarter, it's time for your quarterly live Q&A. Now, a couple of you requested that it be a one-on-one as well, instead of a group Q&A. So we're going to do it because I'm a bit of a people pleaser. And so you asked for it and we're going to do it. So your email has the info for you to schedule a time that's convenient for you. So if you want this recipe or one-on-one time, just you and me, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It's a total deal because when you take advantage of the full offerings, you're saving far more than that $10 cost. In this month alone, in March, you will save the entire year's expense in the value that you're getting. So seriously, a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, being a member supports this podcast and this community so we can continue to bring you new episodes and experts every single week. So remember, all you have to do is go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the show notes instead of remembering the whole thing. Once you're there, you click support now, enter your email and payment info, click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipe for the healthier lobster bisque and your quarterly live Q&A, which will be a one-on-one, just you and me. Okay, Dee, when I said the yardstick thing, what was the first thing you thought of?
Well, let's see. A yardstick, usually when I was growing up, was what we could get paddled with.
Right.
But it's funny, you don't see yardsticks anymore because I was actually looking for one the other day and they're hard to find.
Yeah.
To use for measuring. Yeah. Yeah. I needed it for something.
I remember teachers in like elementary school used to have them and they would like play with them, like use it as a walking stick, like, you know, what we now use our phones for.
Right.
Not a walking stick, but that, you know, distraction, like a fidget stick.
Yeah. Right. I think the teachers use that for, you know, to scare us.
Right. So in thinking about this and wanting to make sure that we tackled everything or as much as we could in this episode, I was starting to think about like, what are all of the things that we measure, right? We certainly measure our food.
Yep. Our water.
Uh-huh.
Well, when you bake, you have to measure when you bake because that's chemistry.
Yeah. I then started to go toward like, almost in my head, like judgment, right? Like how do we measure progress or judge our progress?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Our successes, sure.
Yeah. So I have those on our list for us to talk about, like our choices, the successes. And then I realized today I had left one off the list, which was our workouts.
Oh, yes, 100%. I do that. OCD. Yeah, that would be me.
So we're going to dig into these, you know, our workouts, our food, our choices, the success or progress, as you were saying. But I think as a prerequisite, I want to say I'm coming to this conversation from the place of the goal or objective is health, where what we are looking for is many years of life that all have quality.
Right. Right.
And by the way, as we get into all of this, I think that's a major factor. You know, I think this is going to come up again when we get to the scale stuff. But what is the objective? To make the number on the scale move or to improve our health?
Right. Usually, and it always has been. I mean, I grew up with somebody who it was constantly on a diet and it was measured by your outside appearance versus on your inside appearance. And I think that was, you know, a long time ago, that was really a lot of those weight loss programs that were started a long time ago. They focused only on that number because you weigh every week or that kind of a thing. And so they were only focusing on that one number of measurement. And if you didn't make it, then I think then the mental thing is like, hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scale is, and I think it's still used that same way today for a lot of people because it's mental for us.
Totally. Totally. And I want to come back to that because I think a few things kind of lead to what ends up happening on that scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the one that I almost forgot for us to talk about, which is our workouts, right? So a lot of times, especially when you use an Apple Watch like you and I both do, it can be measured in minutes, right? And oftentimes, and I am guilty of this, we are all in this together, right? Like the intensity, like if it wasn't long enough, if it wasn't hard enough, then it doesn't count.
Right. If I didn't close my rings, did it count for the day? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if that is how we are currently measuring our workouts, right? If minutes and intensity are your yardsticks for your activity, I think we want to look at your yardstick, right?
Yeah. Right.
Now, going back to our episode from February, what if we started to measure the workout based on heart rate?
Mm-hmm.
And intelligent, right? Like working efficiently in that workout.
After listening to that podcast, because I've kind of taken a different approach to my own workouts just based on my age, is like I don't need to be doing a HIIT workout all the time. And that was was a big mental hurdle. I'm starting to really, truly enjoy that and actually look forward to my workouts instead of going, oh my gosh, I just don't want to do that today. And so I'm like, well, I don't have to do that today. I can do this today. And that is still moving my body.
Yeah. So even looking like what you just said, I think is so spot on of, is our yardstick moving our body in the day?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, is it part of your daily routine? That's a win. That is health and longevity. if it is part of your daily routine to move your body, right?
Yeah.
Did we get it done? Sometimes checking the box is enough of a yardstick, you know?
Right. And it doesn't have to be like she was saying in that podcast, it doesn't have to be an hour and 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be all that. It could truly be that 10-minute walk to the mailbox for me and back, or a good stretching class.
Yeah.
That counts. It's okay.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be that I'm going to kill myself, lay on the floor for an hour afterwards and hope I can get up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then by that token, right? How are we feeling? Do we have the energy? Mm-hmm. Right? Did it get those endorphins pumping? Right. So I think these things that we're talking about offer improved barometers, improved metrics for our activity, for our workouts.
Right.
So hopefully,
I think it's hard too, Jen. It's like with all the little things that you can follow on the apps and stuff like that, and you have friends that follow you and stuff like that, and it becomes such a big competitive thing. And then you got to call them. It's like, oh, this workout was so horrible, but it was great. I mean, it was, and they can track you. So then it's like, is that really truly an accountability partner, or is that somebody that's you judge each other? Is that positive or negative? Because I can see it going both ways. Positive on some aspects, it's keeping you accountable. Negative on, I want to continue to compete with you.
Totally. And I love that you brought this up. I think it can be both. And I think it might be different depending on the day.
Yeah.
Like this even comes up with social media of comparison versus competition.
Okay.
Are we looking at what somebody else is doing and making it a judgment, right? Are we then judging ourselves and comparing versus feeling motivated and empowered by what we're seeing others do?
Right. I think what happens is, because I'm working with a client, and then I'm thinking in my own self right now, is you constantly wondering, how come I can't do that? They're doing that, but how come I can't do that? Or when I do that, I feel horrible. And so I think that there's so much mental, we almost overanalyze our own self with a lot of the things that we have to measure ourselves now.
100%. And by that token, then, right, that yardstick is somebody else versus comparing us to us and our own progress. We're then looking at other people and making whatever they're doing or not doing, whatever's happening for them or not happening for them, something about us and our progress.
Yeah.
Which is frankly apples and oranges.
100%. 100%.
And I agree with you. I think a lot of the devices create the metrics that we then all think we quote unquote should be using. And so, maybe it's worth either adjusting some of those things in your device or maybe opting out of some of them if they're not serving you in a way that's helping you feel positive and energized. Right. Or maybe there's a different way to use the tool. Like I actually had a conversation with a client the other day about tracking sheets and what we're writing down. And we kind of shifted the perspective. Like she was really feeling like there's all this information that's like blanks on the page for me to fill out. Like there's so many different boxes and I don't need them all. And so it's making me feel like I'm failing or like I'm not doing it right because I don't need all the boxes.
Okay.
And so the conversation we had was like, wait a minute, back up, right? What if this is about collecting your data so that we can look at your week or day versus another week or day of yours? And the boxes are there so that it's easier to organize if somebody needs all of these things.
Okay.
But if you don't need it, then you don't need it.
Yeah.
Right? So like it's that perspective of, maybe we're making something a yardstick that doesn't have to be, or that isn't intended to be,
That makes total sense. It's like we're making it the yardstick.
Yeah.
Then that wasn't the intention. True. Very true.
So that kind of brings us to the food part. I feel like I'm going to start this with a bang. And this is one that is everywhere and comes from a lot of experts. And I want to say this, it doesn't mean that those people don't know what they're talking about. It means that we work with different populations of people where the language means different things.
Yes.
So I'm prefacing this, all the caveats, because everybody's going to now come at me, and I am anticipating that. But I'm going to start this with a bang, and I think people are going to get mad, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think when it comes to food, calories is a terrible yardstick. And there are a million people who know their stuff who are always going to tell you that a calorie deficit is what's required.
Well, you know how I'm going to respond to that, because I've worked with you long enough that I still think that that's because that's based on what was, how it was measured long ago and not moved into where we are now, an understanding. I remember, probably one of your podcasts, it was not all calories are created equal. And when you look at it in that respect and understand where the calories are coming from, that opens up a whole new perspective on your food versus just looking at that number and going, well, now but that's all I can have. I'm going to have a half a piece of that. I'm like, well, what is that?
Right.
But I think your calorie thing, and you're probably right. People are going to come after you, Jenn, but let them. I mean, here's my thing. Let them, because here's the thing. I think you could educate them and go, you know what? I totally understand where you're coming from, but let me tell you where I'm coming from and why.
Right. Exactly. And here's the deal. All other things being equal, yes, a calorie deficit will create a movement on the scale in the downward direction.
True.
Where I come from is under the assumption that we're looking for health. We're looking to remove fat, not just make the number go down. And that when the average person hears a calorie number, their interpretation is that as long as I stay below that calorie number, everything else doesn't matter. And that is patently not true. And even the people who will say calories in versus calories out know that, because they know that your health outcomes, if you eat, and I'm about to use this number because that's the number that all these people are talking about on social media, right? 1,200 calories a day. First of all, 1,200 calories a day is for toddlers. But, right, if you eat 1,200 calories a day in Twix versus 1,200 calories a day in eggplant, right? Now, I don't recommend either one of those things, full disclosure, right? Neither one of those are recommended. But the body is going to have very different reactions. And so if the only thing we're looking at is the calories, I'm sorry, I think your yardstick is wrong.
You know, I will agree with that 100%. You do have a soapbox, but that's okay. I'm on the soapbox with you. You haven't pushed me off yet.
Okay. So by that token too, right? So we have the calories thing. I think another one of those things on nutrition labels that are terrible yardsticks are percent daily value. Now, I haven't talked about this in a long time, since maybe one of our first episodes on reading labels. But percent daily value, do you know what I'm talking about, by the way? Like on the nutrition label, when you get to the right side and there's a percentage. You know what I'm talking about?
The daily percentage value. Yes, I see that. And I will be 100% honest. It doesn't mean a thing to me because I don't look at that. Because I don't truly pay attention to that, to be honest. I never have. Should I?
No. Right? And thank goodness you don't. But especially when it comes to vitamins and supplements, people start to look at it and kind of get freaked out, or think that because something, I see this especially with sodium, when people are like, oh, it's only 30% or 20 something percent, right? So hold on a minute. Percent daily value was based on, number one, a 2,000 calorie diet. And number two, based on a person not deteriorating into rickets and scurvy. So it was originally designed in time of war based on how our military was being fed.
How long ago was that? Probably World War II.
A long time ago. I can't remember what war it was. And so it was about our military not deteriorating. So what was the minimum amount of nutrients they needed to survive this war? That is not about the amount of a vitamin or mineral that our bodies need for optimal health, right? To function well, to have all systems go and all systems supporting all systems.
Why are they on there? I mean, it's obviously must be a requirement anyway. I mean, it's got to be on there. But how many have your clients, and I guess I've never asked any of my clients, how many of your clients look at that, at the percent value?
They only look at it when we're going through the parts of the label that, we are reviewing the parts that we want to look at, and there's something that they're missing, and they're trying to guess what the thing is that they're missing. So they go, is that? Or when people want to sort of justify a choice.
It's only 5%.
Right. Or try to understand how much sodium is actually in a packaged food, But yeah, very rarely. But it's a number that's there, and I think it confuses people because especially when you get into vitamins and supplements, you might see something that's over 100% of the daily value. And so part of that can be a function of trying to achieve absorption of a proper amount, and some of that could be a function of what's actually needed for the body.
Is that kind of very generalized then? I mean, it's very generalized. It's like we're not all equal.
Yes.
Ooh, so confusing.
I know. All right. So on the food front, I'm also going to say inappropriate barometers are all the fad diets. Keto, paleo, Whole30. Trying to think what else is out there. And the reason why I think those food lists are inappropriate barometers is because it keeps us in that good, bad, black, white, on, off view of our food.
Right.
Everything is just a choice. There are some choices. I actually had this conversation with a client over the weekend. He was like, well, when can I have this again? And I was like, well, you could have it right now. It's just a choice, right? There are choices. It was Carvel, by the way. The thing he wanted was Carvel ice cream.
Okay.
Ice cream. It's like an East Coast ice cream thing. Right. There are choices that will move us in the direction of our goal faster than other choices. Everything is just a choice.
Right. I heard something from another person and that said, when you make those choices, you ask yourself, is this going to get me closer to my goal or farther away from my goal? So then when you make that choice, then you're like, okay, this is probably not going to get me any closer to where I want to go, but I'm going to make that choice anyway.
At least then it's intentional and we're aware, and that can eliminate the self-loathing and the guilt and right? If it's an intentional choice and we know it and we're making that choice, then it is what it is.
And I know you work with your clients. I work with my clients too, is just changing some of your words. It's like, oh, I cheated. I'm like, what did you cheat?
Yes.
Or, oh, I know I was bad. I'm like, there's no bad.
Right. Like, you're not a bad person. You're still who you are, regardless of what food you ate,
Right. It's all about sometimes changing that mentality, changing your wording gives you a new relationship with what you're trying to accomplish. And it takes away the negative. And I've even changed the word diet. I call it nutrition. It's like, this is your nutrition. It's not a diet. This is your life. Yeah. It's how you eat is exactly right.
No, it's how you eat. That's it. Right. So going off of that, right? Nutrition is a much better barometer for our food than the diet, the food list, the calories, right? We're going to look at the nutritional value, the nutrient density of the calories, right?
Oh.
You could even use colors if you wanted to, right? With our kids and family program, we talk about eating the rainbow, right? How many colors are on your plate, right? Can you actually literally eat the rainbow? Yeah. Might take a little effort. Let's use that as part of our benchmark.
Right.
For our nutrition, for our food choices.
Ooh.
Portion sizes is an interesting one too. Going back to what we see others do, I have at times in my life watched people watch my plate, or, for whatever energy is behind it, right? At different times in life, it's about different energy behind it, or are we creating plates for other people in our household where we're measuring what we're eating against what our significant other is eating, or vice versa, right? Like portion sizes. Oh, well, that's a lot. You shouldn't eat that. Like, or, your judgment of what I'm eating whatever it is. I think we can look at friends' plates. We can look at significant others. Even restaurants are really hard, kind of measure portion sizes.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I think there's too, was there probably research out there too, that most of your restaurant serving sizes are twice of what a normal serving would be. Like I ordered a chicken breast one time and then that is like the most giant chicken I've ever seen in my entire life. I didn't say I wanted 2 of them.
Right. Well, now sometimes they take a chicken breast and sort of slice it, like butterfly it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
right.
okay. Yeah.
Right. But to the eye,
that's a lot.
That looks like a massive amount.
Yeah.
Or, I do think there are some things where portion sizes are enormous and some things where portion sizes are probably just right or smaller. Like I think fish, they're usually about right. And I hate to use the word right, but, appropriate, A
true serving size. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So for people that are just kind of starting out, and I know because going through your program too, Jenn, is I was under misconceptions for leafy greens. It's understanding what truly a portion size is on your leafy greens versus what a portion size is on, say, quinoa or rice, and measuring it out. If you measure out 1/3 of a cup of quinoa or rice, you're like, well, now that's not a lot. But you measure out what a true portion of leafy greens is, and I'm like, that's a lot.
Right. So this is where I when we think of portion sizes, right? And like you were talking about baking earlier, I'm not living my life with measuring cups in my handbag or a food scale in my handbag. So I am a big fan of using your hands, right? So your leafy greens, like you're talking about, it's 2 handfuls are going to get us a portion. Your grains, right, your quinoa or whatever, like you were talking about, is a fist. Your protein is your whole hand at a meal, and the palm are a little less than the palm as a snack. Most other vegetables and fruit, we're going to call it 1 handful.
Yeah.
And that's enough, right? That's enough. We don't need the other piece of portion size metrics.
Yes.
What if we started to look at hunger and not emotional hunger, but true stomach hunger? And we've talked about this before, but an easy tool for that is, does broccoli sound good? Would you eat a couple carrots, right? Or a few slices of cucumber? If those things sound good, you're probably hungry. If the only thing that sounds good is a Reese's peanut butter cup or a Sour Patch Kids or a cookie, we're probably not truly stomach hungry. That doesn't mean that we don't eat those other things. It doesn't mean that we have to have a whole, judgmental breakdown about eating those things. It's just awareness and potentially choosing the portion size based on that hunger.
So sometimes when you're truly stomach hungry versus I just really want a Reese's, or you go to the grocery store and you're standing in the checkout line for forever.
Yeah.
You're I need that Reese's because it's right there.
Totally.
In front of me.
Yeah. Again, if we choose our portion size based on using the hunger as the metric, and we go, okay, I'm not that hungry, but that looks really good, so I'm going to have 1 of the Reese's peanut butter cups in the thing, or I'm going to have the 2 and move on with my life, then more power to you. Enjoy. If that 1 or 2 Reese's cups comes with a whole lot of guilt or shame, then we want to dig into it. Then we want to look at and say, well, what are we using as our benchmark then that's making us feel this guilt or shame?
Yeah. I think that goes back to the good food, bad food scenario that we put in our own head and everybody else is putting in our own head.
Exactly. Right. And that kind of leads to choices, right? So I want to talk about choices and how we're measuring our choices or judging our choices, and then also to the scale and success and progress and those kinds of things. All right. But I think it's time for us to take a break for a message from our partner for this episode, and then we'll come back for that. Big thanks to DNA Miracles for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries. Because every child is a miracle, DNA Miracles provides the highest quality body and wellness products designed for babies, children, and expectant mothers. All products are gentle, easy to use, and 100% effective when used as directed. DNA Miracles partner with leading health professionals and scientists who follow the highest standards in ingredient selection to create the most effective skin, hair, and health solutions. As natural as possible, DNA Miracles is the best and safest option on the market for you and your little miracle. From expert pediatricians to real family testimonials, everyone has fallen in love with DNA Miracles. So as we're talking today about yardsticks and metrics, what if we include helping our kids get nutrition in their bodies as part of parenting? And I know that feels like some parents are going to be like, yeah, duh. And for others of us, that might feel really low.
From a parent. Exactly.
Yeah. And I know many people do. And I think that is on people's radar. And I also know that it's not easy. Yeah. Honestly, that's why I encourage you to consider DNA Miracles. They have 3 different multivitamins that could help you. 1 is a chewable. 2 are isotonic capable, which means improved bioavailability. And then the DNA Miracles Isotonics Multivitamin Plus was formulated to support the needs of children who need particular nutritional support in the areas of digestive, neurological, and metabolic health. It's truly a phenomenal formula that's setting up your kids for success every day. So I know you'll agree that the health of your littles is worth a couple dollars a day. And by the way, that's before your discount for being a Salad with a Side of Fries listener. So to get 10% off and free shipping on your order of DNA Miracles, text the word miracles, MIRACLES, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word miracles, MIRACLES, to 844-947-4846. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Okay, so let's go back into the choices, because you were starting to say, right, that's like that good, bad, like the rules of the diet.
I think where a lot of diets fall short, and one you and I both know, I'm like, we don't like the word diet, because as soon as you say diet, then it's like, okay, well, then I have to be really good. And then I have to be,
and I'm going to be off of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, this is only temporary. And then it's just the mindset of the reason that you're on a diet. And what are you trying to accomplish on that diet? And how, I think this is kind of how you and I started this conversation, was how one of a diet that was being advertised was measuring something, and I had to call you and go, do you know what I just heard? Yeah. So I heard the story and it was a talk show host, and she had been on this diet and was very excited about it, and it was working, and it was working because she was losing the pounds based on the scale that she was wanting to accomplish. So her measurement of her yardstick was accomplishing what she was trying to accomplish as far as the poundage. So she said that they didn't encourage you to lift weights when it was weigh-in day, because they wanted you to see more progress on the scale going down versus it going up, because you might be retaining a little bit more water because your body is looking for something in your muscles if you had been weight training. And I was like, what? Because the whole point is like, you need to have that weight training when you're trying to not lose the fat, but like you say, to remove the fat. Yeah, muscle is good. Muscle is good. So I just like, wait a minute. What you just said was almost the point where it's like muscle was bad. And some people would truly take that way. And we want them to build the muscle.
Exactly. So looking at those things, right? Like one of the things I always say to everybody is guidelines, not gospel. Guidelines, not gospel. How do these guidelines pertain and fit into my life and my body? And so by that token, what if we started to measure our choices based on listening to our bodies or communicating with our bodies, rather than based on some set of rules and adhering to those rules?
That's a great way to start doing a different kind of measurement, like listening to your body versus listening to what's on that piece of paper.
Right. And the thing that I always hear from everybody is, if I listened to my body, I would eat Skittles all day, every day. Right. And it's like, I doubt it, and see what happens, right? Like, give it a shot. Also, it makes the argument for working with a coach versus doing this entirely on your own and having very different benchmarks for those choices than, you know, somebody else's perspective might have on those choices, right? I also think, and now I'm sort of shifting, but this is what's coming up, so I'm just going to share it, but it's like, you know, what we see in the mirror versus what we see on social media, right? We start to use that as a benchmark for our choices. And it's like, hold up, full stop. Let's go back to everything we've talked about already in terms of, am I listening to my body? Do I have energy? Do I feel good? You know, am I improving how I choose foods? Am I eating the rainbow? Am I getting nutrition every day? Am I making progress over my behaviors last month or last year?
Yeah, I think the biggest measurement in working with my clients, because they're more in the senior-ish area of life, the first thing I talk to them about is like, you want to make the changes because you don't feel good. And their ultimate goal is to feel better. And so then it's like you sit down and talk to them about the choices and the foods. It's like, let's see what's working and not working and stuff. And I've been working with a client literally for a week.
Right.
And she's made like 2 little tweaky changes and she can get out of bed in the morning and not hurt. And so I asked her, I said, how long ago was it that you remember not getting out of bed and hurting? And she's like, I can't even remember when that was. She goes, it's been a long time. And it was just 2 little things.
Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff where if she was using the yardstick of what her friends were doing or what somebody was talking about on Facebook versus how she was feeling in the morning, that experience is night and day, right? We can often easily gloss over getting out of bed and not being in pain.
And she was trying to do that. That was causing part of it. And I said, your goal is to feel better. I said, we got to stop the storm, for one. She's going, I just got to stop the storm.
Right.
And 2, I said, you're not them. And it's okay. And it was the weight thing and the inches thing and all this kind of stuff like that. And I'll take those 2 nutrition changes. It started to fall off within a couple of days. And she's like, what? And I said, yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I think by that token, right? And this, again, it's coming up in my head, so I'm going to share it. When we think about the choices that we're making, oftentimes people will say, well, this is easier, right? The metric of ease. And maybe we start to look or redefine ease to distinguish between ease in the moment or ease in the long run. Because in the moment, it might be easier to buy the Reese's cups in the grocery store checkout. If that choice brings with it guilt and shame and thinking about those Reese's cups for a week, was it really easier? Because to me, it would be a lot easier to not give myself reasons to beat myself up.
Right. Well, a lot of people then at that point would just give up again and just go, you know what? I just blew it again. And it's like, no, it's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have an episode called Perception versus Reality where we talked about, you know, what we see from other people and what we make that mean. So if you're noticing a lot of this comparison stuff, if you're judging or measuring yourself or your progress based on other people, I want you to take a look at that and see if we can reframe it similar to how we're talking about this stuff right here. Because I want to get to talking about success and progress and measuring, you know, quote unquote, working, right? Does this thing work? Am I hitting the goal? Am I making that progress? Right? And a lot of times we talked about that as the scale. Like even that diet didn't want people to work out when they were going to get on the scale because the scale was their only measurement. And they were making that number mean a whole lot, you know? And I also think, especially with the calories in, calories out model, and with all of these weight loss meds that are, you know, becoming ubiquitous, measuring progress and health by the scale is maybe the biggest inappropriate barometer we have.
Totally agree.
And this ties into the episode BMI is BS, right? But the number on the scale includes your bones and your organs and water and your brain and all of these other things and muscle and fat, right? Measuring only the number in the scale going down does not indicate health. So I go back to where we started, which is my assumption and the place that I'm operating from is that our goal is health. If our goal is health, our better metric is body composition, not the scale, and not even BMI. Because when I also say body composition, everybody says, oh, well, my doctor told me I'm obese because my BMI is whatever.
Exactly. BMI is BS.
Right. So BMI is based on height and weight. Okay, well, somebody who is 5'7" and 180 pounds of muscle, or someone is 5'7" and 180 pounds of fat, their BMI is going to be exactly the same. And now we both know that 100% of that number isn't going to be one or the other, right? Get that. But their health outcomes based on the muscle mass versus the body fat percentage is dramatically different. Therefore, BMI is an inappropriate measure because it is only looking at that total number. It is not looking at body composition. Now, everybody who wants to fight me on this, again, we have a whole episode, BMI is BS. But in preparation for that one, I went to try to figure out why are we even using BMI and where did it come from? So it was designed in like the mid 1800s. It was like 1830 to 1850-ish in there. BMI was designed to help them look at populations over time. So like people who live on this continent versus people who live on that continent over centuries, right? To compare populations. It was never designed for individual evaluation. And it was adopted by our healthcare system because it was a simple way to help health professionals talk to their patients about thickness and thinness. But it is not, by definition and what it was designed for, ever designed to evaluate an individual.
But don't you think when you...
I know.
Sorry, I lost some words there too.
Sorry, this is another soapbox. It's just...
Even to this day, though, not only are they still using the BMI, they're also only using one number, your weight, for your blood pressure. If you lose weight, your blood pressure will go down.
Yeah.
If you lose weight, then this, and this. I have another client who is using one of those new pharmaceuticals solely because she's going scuba diving, and in order, you have to get weighed and you have to put weight in your vest. And she didn't want to have that weight in her vest anymore. Now, okay, I understand. You wouldn't want that weight in your vest either. And she needed it to be done in a short period of time. So that's what she did.
I mean, everybody has their reasons. Here's what I'm going to say. If our objective is health, we want to look at body fat percentage. We want to use a tape measure. So yes, the total number on the scale and a tape measure to look at all of those measurements, right? And body fat percentage so that we can say the number on the scale is going down. Is the body fat going down, right? If those two things are happening, awesome. If the number on the scale is going down and our body fat percentage is going up, we are not removing fat.
So what would you suggest, Jenn, on the people that if they really, because I know there are scales out there that will do that. Are they fairly accurate?
Yeah, it's great. They're all different. And so it is one of those where sometimes the less expensive ones are less accurate. You have to read the instructions really carefully. Some might need your feet to be wet. Some might need them to be dry. Some are going to measure like from a handheld thing versus a scale you're standing on. They're all going to be a little bit different. As long as when you measure it, you're using the same one, you can then use it measurement to measurement and look at the change rather than obsessing about that overall number.
And does it matter? Is like time of day needs to be the same?
Sure. I mean, our objective is to minimize the confounding factors, right? The other variables. But I would also say, guidelines, not gospel, get the measurement and move on, right? Like, again, we don't have to make it another thing that's right or wrong, good or bad.
Yeah.
It's more data. It's more feedback.
I think out of this whole conversation that we're having, I think it's like we need to determine how we want to measure our success. And like you said, is it based on health, or is it based on how we look, or based on that one number? I think that's the biggest question is why are we going to obsess on that number, and we're focusing on the wrong thing? And so, like you said, working with a health coach, and I was working with your doctor too. I guarantee you, if you walked into the doctor and said, okay, I know I need to probably lose a little bit of body fat. I would like to help me. How do I improve my body composition? And they'd probably all look, I was just going to say, they're all going to look at you and go,
they don't know that answer.
Good luck with that. Yeah. Go find somebody else.
Right. There's nothing wrong with them for not knowing. It's not part of their education. So I have 3 things going through my head. Number 1, there are 0 diseases that are only in bigger bodies.
Very true. There's a lot of thin, fat people out there.
And there are a lot of diseases that have nothing to do with how much fat is on your body or not, right? Even going back to our heart health episode from this year, right? Like there are a lot of things that can happen with the heart that have nothing to do with obesity. So, sort of a soapbox. So that's one of the things going through my head on that. The other thing is before and after photos. You versus you for yourself might be really helpful. Before and after photos on the internet, before and after photos that people put on their websites, I personally vehemently dislike them because I think it reinforces all of these inappropriate barometers. The best transformations, the most important transformations, you don't see in a photo. Maybe you can tell somebody's happier. Maybe you can sense their energy. Okay, fine, right? But they don't have to be wearing biker shorts and a sports bra to see that. And then the thing going off of what you were just saying of sort of wrapping this up and really where do we come to on this? To your point, decide what it is. Decide for you, your yardsticks, your benchmarks, your barometers.
And they probably should
change. And it's okay
change
if those change.
At different times.
Yeah, but remind yourself of what yours are each time your head goes into that on, off, good, bad, black, white, success or failure thing. Things you might want to consider as other benchmarks for success and progress. Quality of sleep, how we manage or handle stress, our energy, and our self-confidence. What if you checked in on those things every day, on eating the rainbow every day? Where might that leave you? How would you feel then? That's health. I've stunned you.
No, those are good. I was like, no, those are great measurements. Those are great markers. I think with the health and wellness industry, we're moving towards this. It's just
I hope so.
I truly hope so too, because I've been on the other side of it. I grew up on the other side of it with my mom. And so 100% and seeing and knowing that where I am now in my journey of wellness, 100% the measurements that we measure when we're in our 20s to when we're in our 50s is completely different and super important. Super important. Things that we do in our 20s affect what happens to us in our 50s.
Yes. All right. Last thing I'll say to wrap this up. I hear you. Like, I know the people who feel discouraged and frustrated. Like, I have been there. I get it. Like, I laugh. It is a knowing laugh. And I hope that what you've heard today is that you haven't failed, that all of those metrics have failed you, and that all the people touting these metrics may potentially have a different objective in mind. And that's okay too. But we're going to get clear for ourselves and find the metrics and work with the metrics that work for us.
Right? You do you.
You do you. All right. Nutrition nugget o'clock. You ready?
I'm so ready.
All right. So on Friday, we're talking about 3 perspectives. So I heard this recently and it set off alarm bells in my mind. I wanted to share it with all of you. So we're talking about 3 perspectives from which we can view any situation. It might be in connection to this week's episode, like how we view our progress or an experience. And frankly, this could also go bigger, even like the perspectives that you have in your life. So tune in on Friday to learn the 3 perspectives. Be sure to click follow or the plus sign in whatever app you're listening to, and then your app will alert you on Friday when the Nutrition Nugget goes live. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. This is your personal invitation. Send a message. I want to hear your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your coach. Dee, thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's fun.
Absolutely. And of course, if you are not already, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/saladwithasideofries. This shows your support for this podcast and this community, but most importantly, supports your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the healthier lobster bisque and your quarterly live Q&A that's a one-on-one, just you and me. I can't wait to connect with you. So until next week, remember that sometimes what's most important is not what we measure, but how we measure it. And maybe it's time for you to pick up a new yardstick. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.